Suns fans, you know what time it is in the PHX.
Empire of the Suns.
Phoenix Suns.
Empire of the Suns.
Hello there, and welcome to the Empire of the Suns podcast. I'm Kellan Olson, joined as always by Kevin Zimmerman. Kevin, what's up, man?
I like this.
Kevin, say something. Kevin, we're joined by Luke Lapinski and Mitch Vareldzis here. We're doing live radio while we intro in what is going to be our podcast episode. This is called multitasking. This is called being efficient with your work time, everyone. Okay, back to the live radio. Go ahead.
Well,
It's going to be amazing to listen back to.
Speaking of being efficient with your work time, somebody help me with the math here, okay? You get 5 minutes per pick. We are almost 2.5 hours into the draft. They've made 17 picks. So what's going on here?
Time doesn't exist, Luke. That's what happened.
I guess not.
We have to
account for what? The commercials. You have to account for the pageantry that is the draft, and Adam Silver taking his sweet time to walk up to the stage. That's like an extra 30 minutes on top of it,
that's a
right?
good point. Well, let's get caught up on the picks since Maluach, especially since Kellan is back now. So, again, I'll run through these. Kellan, since you're just freshly back, jump in if there's any of these players in particular you want to talk about, okay?
Sure.
Cedric Coward at number 11 goes to Memphis. Noah Senge goes to Chicago at 12. Derek Queen goes to the Pelicans at 13. Carter Bryant to San Antonio at 14.
Of course.
And, of course, this, too. Thomas Sorber to Oklahoma City
the
at 15.
smart playmaking guy? No way.
No, just fall to Oklahoma City. Yang Hansen to Portland.
Didn't think we were going to hear his name called today. It's like today at
He
all.
was 40 on some boards, yeah.
He goes
way up
16th. Johan Berenger to Minnesota. It's Minnesota from Detroit via the Knicks, but I think ultimately Minnesota.
Makes sense.
And then Walter Clayton Jr. goes to Utah, who just moved up to 18. So Walter Clayton Jr. is a member of the Utah Jazz.
Ahead of Yakachonis, too.
Yeah,
Interesting.
really like Utah's draft so far. Ace Bailey, Walter Clayton Jr. But yeah, the fall right now is Kaspers Yakachonis out of Illinois. He was someone who we were really talking about a lot as a potential selection for the Suns at 10. He was someone who, during the middle of the season, was like in the top 5 of some boards. So he's taking quite the tumble right now. Could land in a better situation because of that. That does tend to pan out well for some guys along the way.
I'll go to you first here, Kevin. I know you guys have talked about this a lot on the Empire of the Suns podcast, which this may or may not be right now.
It is. You need to lock in.
Okay. Which we're currently doing.
Thank you.
How deep do you consider this part of this draft? And maybe this part is wrapping up right now, but the part that the Suns were in the middle of the draft.
I think the, let's say, 9th pick through where we're at right now, 18, is pretty even with the talent and guys who can contribute. And Walter Clayton kind of, if he didn't make a run to the national championship, I don't know if he'd be here, I guess, but I think he showed a lot there. But yeah, I think it's pretty much there's a tier now that's going to be pretty even through 20 to 35 maybe of guys, where there's the Rasheer Flemings, the people we talked about, like Danny Wolf's falling too, by the way. So I think this is really the guts of where there could be some real steals, yeah.
Mitch, anybody out there that you look at that you're like, wow, I can't believe this guy is still out there? I'm not going to say I'm surprised that Newell is still out there, but that was a guy. Talk about the Gambo 5. He was in there. He's the last remaining one that's still available, but also just a player that's like could be potentially a steal here at some point, and he's not even really listed as the best available. That's Yakachonis, like you said.
Yeah, we've mentioned Yakachonis already. As far as just looking at the rest of the big board that ESPN has, Liam McNeely, the guard out of UConn, Jace Richardson, who we all poke fun at, but is still a very talented guard and could very easily still go somewhere here in this latter part of the first round. I like you mentioning the members of the Gambo 5 because I do think that is a fair gauge, right? Like if a team that is picking at 10th overall is considering a guy to be taken in that spot, then we can assume, like just between the four of us, that it's fair to say that Newell is either falling or he's just not seen as highly in the eyes of some other teams. Like Walter Clayton Jr., for example, a lot of the mocks were either end of the first round, beginning of the second round, and here he is going, 17, 18? Mm-hmm. So clearly the Utah Jazz had seen something from Walter Clayton Jr. that they really, really liked him in comparison to other players of his caliber at his position, because if the experts and the teams are this far separated from one another, then clearly there's just a difference of opinion there.
Luke, can I recenter the conversation back to Mark Williams for our podcast episode, please? I really appreciate that. Thank you. And hopefully, what I'm about to say has inspired different conversations that you guys have had over the last 45 minutes or so. I'm confused. I'm confused by the moves that they've made, not the move that they made to draft, to be clear, because Khaman Maluach falling into your lap at number 10 is the type of scenario you hope for in a draft like this, that is top 7, top 8, and then a drop. So to get that guy there makes sense. It makes sense to draft him there. It makes sense to trade for Mark Williams, maybe giving up too much for a guy that couldn't pass a physical to go play center for a contender. That's a little bit concerning. A guy that you're about to pay a whole lot of money because you just gave up 2 first-round picks for him, albeit picks in the 20s. That makes sense. What doesn't make sense is doing this together. Now, I know there are a lot of Suns fans listening that say, we need a center now. Like, get Mark Williams now, develop Khaman Maluach here for a couple of years. What do you need to do right now, though? That's really my question with this type of move. I don't understand the motivation. It's not a win now move, to be clear, but to have Mark Williams for the next couple of years while Maluach develops, eventually they're 2 younger guys. Like Mark Williams isn't even he's 24, 25, 26, somewhere in that range right now, I think. He's not in a situation where he's going to be gone in 5 years or whatever. So you guys going to play these guys together? Do they see Maluach as a stretch 4 down the line with his shooting potential? Is there Evan Mobley, Jordan Ott stuff there that they can do with him? I just have more questions for this move, and I really don't like the value that you got on trading for Williams specifically. So they did great with number 10, to be clear. They did awesome. But what they did outside of that, I'm just confused and perplexed by.
Can I ask you a question? And I'm this is probably breaking a rule of radio because I don't know the answer, and maybe you don't either. Those moves happened so simultaneously.
Yeah.
Do you think they were surprised? I mean, they were probably working on the Mark Williams trade, and all of a sudden, here it is, and Maluach is on the board, and you've got 30 seconds left on the clock or whatever.
Yeah, they must be so infatuated with Williams and what he could provide. They're actually pretty similar players. When you look at Maluach's at least physical comparisons, how long he is and how tall he is, it is Mark Williams in a lot of ways. I think that they were obviously just in love with the idea of trading for Mark Williams to the point where Maluach was on the board. It's okay, great, take him and go from there. But it's not the situation where you should trade for Williams and then not take a center. You need to take Maluach on the board there no matter what else you have lined up. It's the trade for Williams where it's okay, I know you guys love this guy, and even over the concerns, you feel his medicals are great, you're going to pay him a lot of money. There's another element of this trade that's confusing. Vasily Mitch is the guy going back in the trade. That was according to Jake Fisher. He's the guy's contract you're declining to duck under the second apron even further. Mm-hmm. Now you're just taking more money back. So now you got to open up money elsewhere to get under the second apron. This is the second time, Luke, in a week where they have made a trade that's going to require more trades. But they made the Houston trade, it was, okay, we have Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, so now we have to trade at least 2 of Bradley Beal, Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen. Now it's center. It's okay, now you have 4 centers, so what are you going to do with Nick Richards? What are you going to do with Oso Ighodaro? What are you going to do to get under the second apron with the $6 to $8 million more dollars that you have to get rid of right now?
Kevin, this is your podcast. You get to respond now.
Mark Williams making $6.3 million this coming season, and then is going to be a restricted free agent. So you have to pay him and extend him off his rookie deal now.
You can do it this summer. Yeah.
You can do it. Or you gave up 2 late first round picks to have a rental.
Do you want to sign him to an extension right now with the medical concerns, or do you want to wait a year? You could get him cheaper.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing you have to wait. I would want to see his medicals before I answer that question, Kellan. So, yeah, I mean, to get on your more skeptical side there.
Is your podcast always this contentious? Because I feel like I listen and it's not.
Are
no,
we
I don't think we're being contentious.
I'd listen to the recent one.
Yeah, come on.
You're misreading the vibe, dude. Go on.
I've got this draft capsule I want to play when you're done. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate the pushing back on this being the greatest thing because, yeah, I mean, his contract situation is a thing now, immediately. And, I get it if he's a stopgap, but why are we giving up? We just did this. We just did this with Nick Richards and gave up, 3 second-round picks for a stopgap center who turned out he's out of the – what is he now? You got to trade him and find him a new – so there's a lot of questions, and I guess I'll reserve judgment for – what do you do with Nick Richards? How do you figure out what Oso is, or do you trade these guys and get pieces back? Do they have even high enough value? Nick Richards probably tanked his value. Oso, I don't know what his value would be on the trade market. So, yeah, this just adds more questions. But, we entered today already having a lot of questions about this roster. So I'm just curious now.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it legitimately does raise a lot of questions. Mitch, do you have any additional questions before I play this Nolan Traore draft capsule?
Specific to that, I guess if you're to take Kellan's approach and you were to compartmentalize these 2 deals, they used 3 first-round picks and Vasily Mitch to get 2 centers, which I guess on that level, it doesn't sound as exciting as it did maybe an hour ago when we're like, wow, they got
Because
a
it all
steal
happened
of
at the same time.
Right, and we were trying to separate the two. But to Kellan's point, I like the way that he approached it of, if this is what the Suns have done as their significant day of the offseason, they gave away 3 first-round picks and the contract of Mitch, which is like $8 million or whatever. For the final year of Mark Williams, you would anticipate to then extend him, and a center that you expect to be a big part of your team this year and the next 3 years.
I do want to add Maluach. Some of the things that people love about him beyond the measurables that are similar to Mark Williams are he took 16 threes, he made 4. That's a really small sample size, but there's something there if you say, can you play the 4? Can you have 2 bigs? And then the other part of that on the other side of the ball is he moved around really well, can hang on the perimeter for being 7 feet tall, and is not like the, hey, Rudy Gobert is going to get played off the court in the fourth quarter of the playoffs. Like, he has that type of potential where people think he can hang on the perimeter deep in games, in clutch games in the playoffs.
And one more thing I want to add here. I know we're getting late, Luke, but we're on a podcast now. We're not even.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to
at
you.
this point, man. We're totally fine. We don't know how good Mark Williams is. Is he a top 10 center in the league? I don't think so, but we ran into this trap with Nick Richards before where we had a certain level of skills we assumed we were getting, and we took a guy from the Charlotte Hornets ecosystem. And so now you are doing it again, and does Mark Williams have the potential to be on an all-defense team? Absolutely. Is he a very good defensive big right now? I'd lean more towards good than great based on the ecosystem he's coming from, based on all the sort of the intangible stuff he still has to learn in a winning environment, because all he's been doing is losing a lot of games his entire career. So yeah, skeptical is the word for me, and it's hard to say that word, and it's frustrating to use that word, Luke, because they hit a home run at number 10.
Yeah.
But it's just the other move doesn't make sense to me.
At the end of the day, real quick, sorry. This is about, again, going back to the front office and the coaching staff and them selling, like, we can develop players, we can turn guys from bad teams into good, strong centers, defensive anchors. And so, like, that's the big question. Can they do that with both of these guys, I guess?
Kellan, because this may be used for...
It is.
Okay.
I'm speaking this into existence. It's
confirmed
happening.
it, yeah.
How many hours of radio have you done today?
I think we're up to like 5-ish now.
Oh,
I got
that's
a nice
it?
little break
Okay.
there because of you, buddy. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Look at that teamwork right there.
Got to
on the
compose
podcast.
my thoughts
Wow.
in a mature way.
Well, I want to ask you this about Mark Williams, and maybe this is a simple question, but you seem concerned about the addition. Are you concerned more because of inconsistency in play, or are you more concerned just because you don't know if he's going to be healthy?
All of the above. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's all of the above. I think it's more with the injury and more with, because, like, think about how badly the Lakers needed a center and how, like, not the West was wide open by any means, but after Oklahoma City, like, that other team that was going to peek in, like, it could have been anyone. And it could have been them as well if they would have added a center that really could have helped them. And that's who Mark Williams was supposed to be. But the physical and just they got scared off so bad that they declined the deal, and then they signed Alex Len.
Wow, Alex Len reference on the show tonight.
Yeah, and the price as well. Like, you wonder if two first rounders was too much. But the thing I do like about this trade, to be clear, is that 2029 first rounder is almost certainly going to be in the 20s. So you're not giving up some unprotected first or some first that has a really good chance to be a lottery pick. Like, you give up the 29th pick and then another pick in the 20s. I just think that specific, like, package could have been used for someone else, like, that doesn't have these physical concerns or doesn't have these concerns about his, like, long-term potential that you're about to pay when you have to duck under with money. Like, there's a lot of circumstantial stuff within his profile that makes me a bit hesitant of the move right now and makes me question it. And again, I'm going to repeat this every time I'm, like, questioning this move. I love taking Maluach at 10. I think it's a great move.
Separate
I think
thing.
the Suns knocked it out of the park there. I think the move right next to it is the one that's really puzzling.
Kevin, same question for you, and then Mitch, I have an existential question for you, so just be ready for that.
All right, I just have to remove my headspace for a second.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I guess I'm actually, if I'm going to be a negative person in this double acquisition of a center scenario, I think I'm lower on Maluach just producing right away than maybe you are, Kellan. So, like, I kind of see okay, it makes sense. You get your starter right now, and you have time to develop him in a good way and not put too much pressure on him because, like, look, the production was 8.6 points, 6.6 rebounds, 1.3 blocks, and he only played 21.3 minutes per game. So it's like, okay, same as Carter Bryant. Like, why was he not playing that much? Was it conditioning? Was it just he's a young guy on a really good team? It's probably that, right? But I do think he is a little more developmental than people think.
Raw.
Yeah,
he's raw.
He has all the natural talents. He has not played basketball since he was like 5 years old, and that's the biggest thing with him now. And I think them having a starting center makes sense still in the context of drafting Maluach even just because of that. And I think he can watch, he can learn. And again, it goes back to the coaching staff that's not assembled yet. I don't think teaching and coaching and getting guys who have not been in these winning situations or in the NBA situation up to speed and playing the right way.
Let's reset the picks from 16 on, in case you're just joining us. Yang Hansen to the Portland Trail Blazers, the center out of China. Johan Berenger to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Walter Clayton Jr. to Utah. Nolan Traore to Brooklyn, who has like 97 picks in this draft somehow, and then Kasparis.
And apparently are going to use all of them.
Yeah, apparently. And then Jonas just went to the Miami Heat at number 20. So right now, Utah is on the clock.
10 more picks, 5 minutes each, so we'll be out of here in like 3 more hours, right?
Probably
That's
right
how the
around
math works.
Mitch, I wanted to ask you this. I think everybody is excited about the Maluach pick at 10. It felt like coming into tonight, this is their last chance to get a potential, however you want to gauge it, star player, all-star caliber, whatever, guy with major upside. It felt like this is their last chance to do it for a while. Because, again, all the trades that we're talking about, the other moves, are more like you got to move Beal, you got to shed salary somewhere. I mean, you could feasibly bring in a guy through free agency if you can move Beal, but it felt like this was kind of their last chance that we know of to go out there and add a player with major upside. Do you feel like they did that?
It's like, I guess the example I would use is on a dark, cloudy, stormy day. That's what the Phoenix Suns offseason is felt like what it's supposed to be, where it's remove this, tear down studs, start over. And yet here comes this little rainbow coming through where Khaman Maluach miraculously falls to the Suns with the pick that they got back that was theirs from the Houston Rockets by giving away one of those pieces that got Suns fans excited when he got here. And now it's been a messy divorce, for better or worse, at least from the fan base perspective. But for this rainbow to peer out of this dark and cloudy offseason has been the real boost that the Suns fan base has been looking for, because I don't think there was a lot of optimism about this offseason going in. And now there's at least this one small piece to hold on to for the next several months. I mean, heck, even during Summer League, we've actually got Summer League to look forward to in the next couple of weeks as well.
Kellan, we were talking about this. You were here, but you weren't in the studio. Of just, you go out there and you're finally adding players instead of just talking about who you're going to get rid of. And yes, we're all still talking about getting rid of Beal, but so much towards the end of the season was get rid of the coach. Are you going to move on from the GM? Are you going to move on from KD? Now they're finally adding some pieces. So similar question to what I just asked Mitch. When is their next opportunity to add an upside piece? Are we optimistic at all that they'll be able to get into a position where they can do that in free agency, or are we talking like years down the line?
Yeah, I think that's, again, like going to 29 and trading the 2029 first. Now they don't have any first round picks they can trade anymore. That's the other dynamic of including 2029 in this. It's moving other pieces on the roster right now, but what kind of impact player can you get for Grayson Allen or Royce O'Neal or Dillon Brooks, or if Jalen Green becomes available, or Bradley Beal? It's probably not someone really that impactful. So this was their big shot to really make an impact, the Durant return, and then what they were going to do on draft night. So that's where we're at right now with them. There is one more parallel I wanted to mention with number 10 in this whole situation with Maluach and Williams. You'll remember when Jalen Smith got picked number 10 overall 5 years ago, DeAndre Ayton existed. And we were like, wait a minute, this is a guy that is a tweener, sure, but he's probably going to play the 5 in the league. And then we later learned that the Suns were actually trying to develop him into this Pascal Siakam type, where he plays a lot of 4, he plays a little bit of 5. They tried that, it went horribly wrong, and then Jalen Smith is in the NBA now playing the 5. I'm not saying that's what they're doing with Maluach, but again, some of the thought here long term, if you're looking at this as 2 guys who are going to be a part of your team for the next 5 to 7 years, would be them playing together, unless Mark Williams is only playing 24 minutes a game and each of these guys are splitting time like that. It's just one of those things, again, just from a sheer value perspective, with how little value, to your question, the Suns have, where the utilization of it was going to be really important for the next week or so.
Let me ask you before we hit the break, because you brought up that draft. I said this to Gambo when we first got in here after the pick was made, that when Maluach was slipping at 8 and then at 9, and it's like, okay, is Toronto going to take him? Are they going to have visa issues to be able to get him to play enough games? Is he going to slip to 10? It did have Tyrese Halliburton vibes from 5 years ago. I don't think Maluach is going to be anywhere near as good of a player as Halliburton, but it probably more by nature of their positions and what they're going to be asked to do. He's not going to be like that star power sort of guy, but did you get those vibes? I mean, when he's dropping, you're sitting there at 10 and you have a guy potentially slipping to you right there. Kellan, I'm going to go to Kellan.
I was
your
zoning
podcast.
out because, I was zoning out. Hey, can I throw a conspiracy theory out?
Do it.
Since
We love conspiracy theories here.
Mark Williams, as I mentioned, is on an expiring deal. He will be a restricted free agent.
Yeah.
Could you flip him at the trade deadline even? How many guys on this
Like
current
in season.
Can you trade him? Like 6 months out?
Yeah, you can trade him in 6 months. But like, is his value going to be better or worse than what you just gave up? Are you willing to take some costs at that point?
I mean, he might get hurt before
I'm
going to
go I'm going to go super far back. And when they acquired Isaiah Thomas from the Sacramento Kings, and they had 2 point guards on the roster, and they got a third, there was a very obvious reason, and that was because they got him on a really good deal, and they could flip him. They did not flip him and get a lot of good in return, but they did that for a very good reason. And this is a situation where, like, every single player on this roster still, other than Devin Booker, should be on the trading block. Like, we should hear the same noise that we heard this last season all summer about every single player except Devin Booker. Like, that's what should be happening. And I'm just throwing that out there about maybe Mark Williams is that, obviously down the road before the trade deadline, but just gives you a starting caliber player that maybe the Lakers will be like, oh yeah, we do want you. Sorry, your back's fine. Like, I don't know.
We don't want it to be the inverse. We don't want Maluach to be that guy, right? Like, Mark Williams comes in and he's pretty good and like he's solid and you're feeling good about paying him. Like, he's playing, he's healthy, and you're like, oh, now we could trade Maluach for like a piece that's in his late 20s. No, do not do that.
No,
keep this guy. Correct. Rely on the upside. Like, the ceiling for him is crazy. Like, it's exactly the type of talent they needed. It's a home run that they got him. They need to keep him.
It's not technically a brand new regime because it's from within hire from a year ago, 2 years ago. But is this where we start to see, to your theory, the breakdown of players that are no longer wanted on this roster, right? Like, do we potentially, and maybe this is too much of a stretch, but is this now a real removal of Oso Ighodaro, a guy that was drafted a year ago, and maybe on the surface looks a little obsolete when you add 2 centers within a span of basically a minute of each other? Like, yes, they have the G League system, but he's only going to be under contract for another year plus, if that. Whereas you've now invested 3 first-round picks in 2 centers. You could probably make a case that it might be days numbered for Oso if he can't fight his way out of the now thicker competition.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to Kellan's original point of you are making moves that require additional moves. And that, yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like there's any sort of resolution. Not that we expected, like, total resolution on draft night, but it's just like, okay, you made a move that probably sets you up where you have to make another move. And I don't know, does Oso get attached if they find a way to move Beal? Is that something, I mean, I don't really want that to happen, but is that an option?
Luke, can I say one thing here?
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to the Empire of the Suns podcast. We'll be back in like 2 to 3 days for agency preview. Gregory's going to talk after this, Kevin. We got
Unless
some
tomorrow's crazy.
Second round picks. Maybe there's some trades tomorrow to talk about as well. But this has been the Empire of the Suns podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.